So hello and welcome back to Books and Things, and today I'm here with what I'm going to call a quick quarterly haul and also an unboxing of a SwiftLit book box. In my reading goals for 2018, I mentioned that I was going to try and acquire less books this year, and I was going to make a concerted effort to acquire less books because I have too many things on my TBR and not enough space in my life. I said that I wasn't going to ban myself from receiving review copies from publishers because I still want to keep on top of new books coming out and things like that, but I did say I was going to reduce the amount of books that I acquired. So I have acquired some books in the last few months since 2018 began. However, of the things I have acquired, 2 of them were review copies, 2 of them were books I bought with a book voucher I'd got for Christmas. One of them was a Kindle version of a book I owned in print, and the other was an audiobook version of a book I owned in print, and then the 7th is the book I am about to unbox. And I know what the book is in there, and I know that I have already read it. One of the review copies I acquired, I've also already read, and one of the books I bought with my book voucher I have also already read. So on the TBR front, I'm doing very well because I actually have only added 2 books to my TBR. In terms of spending less money on books, I'm doing very well because most of these were review things, and I spent 50p on the Kindle book and £3 on the audiobook because it was a Whispersync thing. So in that sense, also doing well. Less well on the space thing because I do have 5 new books to put on my shelf. I thought that I would start making quarterly hauls because at least that will make me slightly more accountable for the books I buy. Previously I have never kept any record of the books I buy, but this year I've started keeping a written record of what books I acquire because I thought that I would quite like to note down when I get books and therefore actually keep track of the books I acquire, and I thought that doing book hauls and hauling on this channel everything that I acquire would be a good way of keeping track of this and making sure to myself that I don't acquire too many books when I know I don't really have the space. But before I talk about the books I have acquired in the first 3 months of 2018, I do want to talk about this. So SwiftLit contacted me and asked me if they sent me one of their boxes from their book subscription service, if I would be interested in talking about their box on my channel, and then they told me more about the box and I said yes. As I said, trying to acquire less books, not enough space on my shelf. I know that I cannot justify to myself being subscribed to a book subscription service, but maybe if I'm good this year and don't acquire too many books in 2018, I'll allow myself to subscribe to this in 2019 because it's definitely the kind of book subscription service that I want to join, in that it specialises in paperback literary fiction. I looked back through their previous boxes and they have put out in their previous boxes a lot of really good, interesting literary fiction, definitely the kind of box I would be interested in. Currently SwiftLit only do UK shipping, so they're not available internationally, I'm afraid, for those of you watching me who are not from the UK. But if you are in the UK and if you are interested in SwiftLit books, they have given me a discount code for anyone who watches this video, and all you have to do is put in the code Books and Things in capital letters on the purchase page, and that will get you 30% off your first box. So let's open this. So I have tea bags, which always makes me happy. Oh, and they're tea pigs. I really like tea pigs. I never have tea pigs except when I go to my parents' house. This is like my mum's treat tea. And then there's a handwritten letter by Scott, who is the guy that runs SwiftLit Books, talking about the book that is in the box and why he loves it. And the book in here was John McGregor's Reservoir 13, which I have read and I think is really wonderful. I have all the rest of John McGregor in paperback, and I have this book in hardback, and I quite wanted to have it in paperback too because I quite like paperbacks. I love this book a lot, so I'm very excited to own it. Then another bookmark, and the world's smallest kite, which is cool because it's a kite like the bird, but also a kite that you can fly. I like how this is themed around sort of nature and to do with the book. The thing I'm most excited about, which I think is really cool, is a letter from John McGregor about Reservoir 13, because the guy who runs SwiftLit Box got in touch with him and got him to add some more insight. So I'm not going to read this now, but I am going to read this later, and it's about what made him write Reservoir 13, I guess. But yeah, I'm really excited for this. I think it's a really lovely idea for a book subscription box, and definitely one I would love to subscribe to when I have a little bit more space in my house. But on to the other books I have acquired in the last couple of months. First, I'll start off with the review copies. This is Literary Wonderlands, which is written by a lot of people with the general editor Laura Miller, and it's published by Modern Books. And I have a slightly odd story behind it because this is published by Modern Books, who are an imprint of Elwyn Street Productions, and I used to work for Elwyn Street Productions, and in fact I worked on this book. I wasn't the main editor on it, but I did do quite a lot of work on sort sort of picture research, and I did copy edit some of the entries in here and sort of proofread the anglicised edition because it was written originally in American English because it was published first in the States. Literary Wonderlands, a journey through the greatest fictional worlds ever created, and it consists of a lot of entries. I want to say somewhere between like 80 and 100, I can't actually remember how many there are, spanning from things written in ancient times to very, very recent books. Everything from like the Odyssey to the Water Babies to the Handmaid's Tale, and it looks through all of these literary works and the worlds that they create, and it's really, really fun. It was the first book I ever worked on in publishing. I did a bit of work on this in my internship at Elwyn Street Productions and then went on to work at Elwyn Street Productions and work on this a bit more, and it was a really, really fascinating project to work on. Like I said, I proofread it, so I have read it, but I haven't read it in book form, so I am looking forward to rereading it at some point in the next few months. And then the other review copy I received, which I was very kindly sent by Vintage, is this, which is The Western Wind by Samantha Harvey. It might be out by the time this goes up, and I haven't managed to read it yet, but I'm really hoping to get to it soon. Sam Harvey was actually one of my tutors on my creative writing MA. I have read two of her other books, The Wilderness and Dear Thief, both of which I really, really loved. I gather it's about a village priest in the 15th century solving a murder, which is awesome. Then the two books I bought with my book voucher that I got for Christmas. The first is one that I have read before several times, and that is Bleak House by Charles Dickens. I do own another edition of this, but I've just started hosting a read-along on this channel of Bleak House in a serialised fashion over the next 18 months, and I wanted a physical copy of Bleak House that I could write on, unlike my little collector's library edition, which has tiny pages with no margins. So I bought myself a sturdier Penguin Classics edition, and I also wanted an edition that had good notes in the back, and I know I can trust Penguin Classics on this. Now, I went into Waterstones with my book voucher intending to just buy Bleak House and to save the other half of my Waterstones voucher, and then I saw this and I decided to buy it. This is Days Without End by Sebastian Barry, a historical fiction novel set in America in the 19th century, looking at the relationship between two men, their role in the war, and their relationship as a couple, and their relationship with a little girl that they adopt. This is one of those books that I've heard a lot about on BookTube, and a lot of very mixed things about on BookTube. I'll link down below the two book review videos that made me buy this book. One is from Jen from Insert Literary Pun here, who didn't like this book very much. And then the other is a video from Marissa from Little Spider 9, who did really like this book. And even when I was watching Jennifer's video and listening to her say things about it that she didn't like, I was still sat there thinking, I want to read this book. This sounds like, even if it wasn't for you, it would be definitely for me. So I am really, really excited to get to this. It's not too long, so I don't feel like I'm adding too much to my TBR, and I couldn't wait to read this, so I had to pick it up, and I'm excited. And then the final two books that I acquired. The first was a Kindle copy of War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy. I do own another copy of War and Peace. I own a physical copy, this giant beast, and I have been trying to read War and Peace for the last, like, 10 months or something, and just utterly failing. The problem is that this book is so huge that I can't really take it in my bag to work, and I do pretty much all my reading on my commute, so if I can't read a book while I'm commuting, I'm just never going to read it. And also, War and Peace was originally written in Russian, obviously, but a lot of the dialogue was written in French, and this edition translates the Russian into English and then has the French in French with footnotes translating it, which I just found made it really, really hard to read for me. So I consulted Anne from Beyond the Pages, who I trust on all matters War and Peace, and I got myself a Kindle edition so I can read it on the train, and one in which everything, the Russian and the French, is translated into English. So hopefully I will now manage to read War and Peace this year, but we'll see how I go. Then finally I did buy one audiobook in the last few months, and that was an audiobook of Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen, the one with the Rosamund Pike narration. I listened to it on audiobook in February, and it was my 5th reading, and it was absolutely wonderful. Basically, at the beginning of February I sprained my ankle and I was on crutches for about 10 days, and usually I listen to audiobooks when I'm walking from the station to work, which is like a 15-20 minute walk. Obviously with crutches a 15 to 20 minute walk was quite difficult, so I instead got the tube, that last bit of my commute, which basically meant for 10 days I didn't listen to audiobooks. And then I started listening to the history book audiobook I'd been listening to, and I just couldn't concentrate on it at all. And I wanted an audiobook that I knew would get me back into listening to audiobooks, and I also wanted to reread Pride and Prejudice, and so I combined the two, and I got myself a Pride and Prejudice audiobook, and the Rosamund Pike narration is great, and I love Pride and Prejudice so much, and I already spoke about this in my February wrap-up, but just Pride and Prejudice, just what a book. What a book. I am so glad that I now own this audiobook, because I think I might listen to it every year. It's only 11 hours, it's really short. I could listen to it twice a year, maybe I will. And there we go, that was a quick quarterly haul, and also a little unboxing of the SwiftLit box. I'll link everything about SwiftLit down below, and also the discount code they gave me, and I'll also link down below all the other books that I've been talking about today. So I know I haven't done incredibly well in my aim to acquire less books, but hopefully hauling all the books that I do acquire is going to make me a bit more accountable, and is going to help me cut down my acquiring of books a little bit more. So there we have it, thank you very much for watching, and I'll be back very soon with another bookish video.